Here, and with that, Michael, I'd like to ask for the roll call, please.
Alderman Bob Bauman. Mr. Grady Crosby. Senator Alberta Darling. Mr. Mark Flaherty. Representative Kaylin Haywood. Senator LaTanya Johnson. Mr. James Cantor.
Here.
Secretary Kathy Blumenfeld.
Here.
Mr. Scott Mansky.
Here.
Mr. Greg Marcus. Mayor Dennis McBride. Alderman Jose Perez. Mr. Gerard Randall. Representative Jesse Rodriguez. Ms. Aicha Sawa. Mr. Omar Sheikh. Alderwoman Jocasta Zamaripa. We have a quorum.
Great, thanks. First, I'd like to extend a welcome to the board to two new members. Representative Jesse Rodriguez from the Speaker of the Wisconsin State Assembly, Robin Voss. Welcome, Jesse. And Gerard Randall as a mayoral appointee, so welcome. Okay, we'll clap for him. You've joined the best board in the entire state, so we're very proud of that. Second is just the discussion and approval of the meeting minutes from our last board meeting, which was May 20th of 2022. Is there any discussion for the meeting minutes of our last board meeting? All right, if not, I would seek a motion for approval. Do we have a second? All in favor of approval of the meeting minutes from the board meeting on May 20th, 2022, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You're opposed? Oh, absolutely. All right, we have approval of the meeting minutes. Senator Darling, please.
Does that work?
There we go.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's great.
Well, thank you. You can't believe the accolades she got from the selection committee this week. I mean, they were oohing and ahhing about the great job she did, and it reflects a lot of teamwork, and it's hard to get a team to pull together as she did. I think we should give her a big round of applause.
Awesome, thank you. And
You're welcome.
we all do agree. With that said, we're going to have a slight change in the agenda due to scheduling and meeting conflicts, and with the fact that we have a vote, there are some folks that need to get off a little earlier today. So with that, we're going to move the expansion project financing up and have a discussion in closed session. So with that, the board may convene in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute S. 19.851E for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business, whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The board is expected to reconvene in open session following this agenda item. Do we have a motion to go into closed session?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great. We will take 1 second as we clear the room and go into closed session. Thank you. All right, I do believe we are all back, and we are now back in open session, and all the lines are back open. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the two resolutions to authorize the issuance of the bonds and to approve the amendment to the Levy contract. Do I have such a motion?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Great. The motions carry, or the motion carries. We will now go back to point 3, I believe, of the agenda items, and that will be Mr. Steve Marsh to go through our financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today's financial update includes a review of the district's year-to-date results through June, as well as a look at our projected net income and cash positions for the remainder of the fiscal year. We're going to start with the year-to-date income statement, which is page 7 of your board packet and has column IDs A, B, C, and D at the top. Scrolling down to line 67, column C, you'll notice our net income before depreciation is $3.6 million better than budget, which is certainly a good news story through the first 6 months of the fiscal year. So let's talk about what's driving that positive variance. If you look at line 28, you'll notice net operating income is $500K better than budget. And there's a couple things worth noting here. Number one, we're right on budget in terms of event activity on the district campus. Through June, we had budgeted for 141 events. We actualized 142. You'll also notice a positive variance in line 14 of about $600K. If you recall from our last board meeting in May, the district received a supplemental grant from the SBA via the Save Our Venues grant program for just under $500,000, which was booked to this line item. After accounting for that grant as part of the overall variance in line 28, we're generally on budget through June with our event activity. Looking at line number 34, you can see year-to-date tax revenues are better than budget by $3.2 million. When this statement was distributed to the board earlier this week, we did not yet have June actual results, so a forecasted projection was used for that month instead. Earlier this week, the June numbers did come in, and they exceeded our forecast projection by 25% and our budget number by 38%. Even more remarkable is that the 22 June tax revenues exceeded our 2019 June tax revenues. If you recall, 2019 was the district's best year on record in terms of tax revenue collections. Based on the results of the first 6 months, we are expecting total tax revenues collected for the year to exceed our 2019 collections number. This is well ahead of the recovery pace that was projected in 2020, which did not see the district getting back to this level until late 23, early 24. To line 35, interest income, better than budget, namely due to the better than expected rates of return earned on the short-term treasury investments made from the project fund. And line 38, Bucks ticket surcharge revenues is also outperforming budget as a result of playoff games hosted at Fiserv in May. Scrolling down to non-operating expenses, line 66, column C, we're over budget by about $600K, and there's two primary reasons for this. Number one, the Visit Milwaukee management fee, line 49, is greater than budgeted. We discussed this variance at the last board meeting as well. The 22 expense is driven principally by 21 city tax revenue collections. Because the budget was developed and approved last October, the unexpected strong performance of tax collections in fourth quarter 21 was not accounted for in the budget. The good news is that the visit expense grows as a result of growth in district revenues, so management has no concern about this variance and our ability to meet this funding obligation. The second component driving the variance in line 66 is the payment made to the city pursuant to the pilot agreement, which is noted on line 63. This is the first installment that was potentially due to the city pursuant to our agreement, and was based off of 21 financial performance. It was not budgeted for the same reason that we're over budget on visit. The strong performance of fourth quarter tax revenues triggered the net income threshold per the agreement. So year to date, just above budget in operating income, some expected overages and non-operating expenses, and really a strong first 6 months in tax collections all translate into a positive variance of $3.6 million relative to budget. If we could turn to the next page, page number 8, column IDs E, F, G, and H at the top, we see a comparison of our annual budget to our projected annual forecast. And again, straight to the bottom, you can see line 67. We do expect to beat our budget by about $7.7 million. And the drivers for that positive year-end variance are similar to what we saw in the first half of the fiscal year. Again, up to operating income, line 28, We are expecting to see some modest gains relative to budget over the next 6 months, coming in about $730K better by year end. We expect to be very close on that event mix budget. We had budgeted to host 251 events. Our forecast has us at 248. We do believe there is some opportunity to improve net income, particularly on the food and beverage side, as it pertains to those events already booked. And we're still chasing down a few leads for those remaining calendar openings that remain in 22. As for tax revenues, line 34, as I mentioned before, we're expecting continued growth over budget for the remainder of the year. We'll be truing up that June tax number for the next board meeting and would expect us to be, as I said before, over 2019 revenues by year end. Interest income, line 35, you can see this number really does explode in the second half of the year, again, based on investments made at the end of June that will mature by year end and into 2023. As we approach the 23 budget, we'll need to revisit the cash drawdown schedule from the projects account and assess the rate environment to determine how much we might expect to earn next fiscal year. And again, as to line 66, you can see we're over budget by $1.3 million. Again, this is driven by the Visit Milwaukee management fee and the city pilot payment. Are there any questions on the income statement before we move on? Okay, well, let's skip over to page 11 then. This will show us a projection of where we expect our operations account to end the fiscal year. Looking at line 25 under the month of December, we're expecting to end the year with a balance of $8.6 million in our operations fund. This is more than double our budget number of $4.2 million. Obviously, the improved tax collections are driving this positive variance, as was a stronger starting balance to start the year, driven by a strong fourth quarter tax results in 2021 and the success of the Beyond Van Gogh event. The projected balance is certainly good news, and management has no concerns about meeting its operational obligations for the remainder of the fiscal year or for the next 12 months. Page 12, this exhibit shows the district's restricted cash position, and this exhibit shows that we expect it to be greater than $27 million by year end, as we expect to add $4.8 million to this account due to the strong performance of our restricted tax revenues. As discussed earlier in the meeting, $7 million from this account will be drawn out in part to fund the project budget gap. So our next iteration of this document that's shared with the board will show an ending balance closer to $20 million. Again, management believes this account is very healthy, and its current balance levels provide stability and flexibility in how the district manages its debt portfolio going forward. Lastly, pages 13 and 14 represent a current snapshot of our 22 capital budget. As you're aware, the district typically initiates the majority of its capital spending during the summer and second half of the fiscal year. Deferring these projects to the second half serves as part of the district's risk management strategy should operating results or tax revenues come in less than expected. We're still projecting to be at our budget number, which is line 45 on page 15. You'll notice there are some puts and takes throughout this document. As an example, line 43, we budgeted to replace a system that operates the lighting in the ballroom, which was expected to cost the district about $220K. However, you can see we're now forecasting that line item to be zero. During the discovery phase of that project, we were able to develop a solution that was much more simple and cost the district only a few $1,000s from its expense budget. Conversely, line 46 under contingency, you'll see an unexpected project costing about $205K related to structural repairs to the basin that supports the convention center's 3 cooling towers. The repair was determined to be needed during regular preventative maintenance. An issue that is carried over from 21 is lead time and availability for parts, materials, and equipment. As we finalize project schedules, it's possible that some of these projects bleed over into 23, as did some projects from the prior fiscal year. We've already begun our preliminary 23 capital budget discussions and are in process of evaluating timelines and priority needs, which we will be prepared to share with the board in October during the 23 budget presentation. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Are there any questions for Steve? Great. Thank you, Steve. Well done. With that, we'll turn it over to Marty and go over our, oh, sorry, Senator Darling.
Press the button. Question for you, and you might not have the answer. What are you projecting the revenue will be from the Republican National Convention? Can you do any estimates?
You're talking about the revenue for the district from the convention?
Yes. Did you say that already and I missed it?
I'm sorry?
Did you say that already and I missed it?
We haven't given out the number yet because we're still waiting to get the production components identified. We haven't reached an agreement with the host committee for the licensing of our campus for the period of the convention time. In that proposal, there are some expenses that are covered, others that are not. So until they bring their production people on board, we won't know exactly what those expenses that we're responsible for will be and what the ones that will be incremental that they'll be able to be charged
I think it'll
for.
be significant because they're talking $300 million for the state. So I'm hoping some of that will come to us, and I project it will.
I assure you that the business side of the agreement is very favorable to the district. Even though one of the individuals that I had been negotiating with is now a board member, prior to such time, we were on opposite sides of the table.
I've been gentle.
So it is a very strong business agreement for the district, especially in a period of time that is that's very active in the leisure market and not as active in the convention market. So we'll see revenues from the facilities being leased as well as the incremental hotel tax because of the amount of hotel rooms being used over that period of time, upwards of a month.
Great. Are there any other questions? Finance side? All right, with that, Marty, CEO report. Thank you.
Thank you. Going to start off, which is dangerous at times, is going a little bit off script. Before I get into the CEO report, we watch the finances of this business every day, along with how we do our business to make sure that we're living the life professionally in and outside of the organization, BPX. With the addition of the responsibilities of the expansion, we have taken that same approach and live and breathe what that project means to the region, what that project means to us as far as being a steward of that money. So while we may sit and prepare for today's meeting and wonder why there would be any doubt this would be approved, you never know if it's going to be approved. So I truly appreciate the continued support of the board for this project and respecting our request for additional funds so that we can deliver the project that we want you to be proud of. So that's where I am off script. No longer a secret, but has been mentioned a number of times this morning already. 2 weeks ago today, there was a press conference held in Chicago where it was announced that Milwaukee will be hosting the 2024 RNC. And I never realized how much Alberta would be taking the thunder out of other people's discussions because she opens the meeting with a shout out to Peggy. I'm going to start off by thanking everyone in the region for their support, for their support with getting the RNC. It truly has been an incredible project to be a part of and to witness how people on both sides of the aisle and in the public and private sector have worked together to support something that is just so terrific for the region and for the state. Special acknowledgement to those of you on our board, Chairman Cantor, Jose Perez, Gerard, our new addition, Omar, just being out in front and representing the city, and with that comes representing our organization, has been terrific. And to follow in Alberta's comments, this does not happen without the leadership drive of Peggy Williams-Smith. She and I have been on different sides of arguments in our professional association, but always in a healthy manner. And she has brought something to the position as chairman of Visit Milwaukee that hasn't been there, at least that I'm aware of. And I have thanked you enough, but I can't thank you enough for what you did, your efforts and those of your staff to keep the team focused and pushing all of us to get this across the finish line. So again, thank you, Peggy. On the event side, in March, the board approved a 5-year deal with us and the Pabst Theater Group to operate for public ticketed events, the theater, to book it, sell it, and run it. Their contract, as a reminder, runs August through July. During that specific time period, they have already confirmed 16 shows through December of '22, 6 additional shows in the first part of '23, with a bunch of additional holds for '23. They are well on their way to surpassing their minimum guarantee of 35 events a year, which is something that we put in there in the agreement. So given the realities that we have today and the market we have today, it is progressing as we had hoped. On the arena side, we had a terrific show with Jack White that had been postponed a number of times over the past 18 months because of COVID. The UWM Panther Arena really shone and was in its heyday as being the preeminent entertainment venue in the market. Just a great show for the city and for our organization. We've gotten the UWM men's basketball schedule. That came out the other day, as well as full schedule of Admirals hockey games for the coming season. And what we're really excited about is, you may remember this time last year we were talking about the possibility of having the Milwaukee Wave come back. They had suspended their season during COVID. That we entered into a one-year agreement with them for last year. It was a very successful season for them, and we are now in active discussions for a multi-year deal because they just feel so strongly that their sport has support in Milwaukee. So that's very encouraging for the arena. On the Wisconsin Center entertainment side, we've mentioned before that Beyond Monet opens up in October. It's presented by We Energies Foundation and will run through early January. Along that same vein, and I know that there was some concern raised a year or so ago that we might be losing focus on the importance of the meetings and convention business. We're looking, certainly meetings and conventions are the bread and butter of what we're in existence for, but there are also periods of time where there are capacity opportunities to use our facility. And as we're looking at 2023 and where meetings and conventions are lying, we do have a couple of windows of opportunity to book a number of the halls with non-traditional usage. We are in active negotiations for 2 new public ticketed timed art exhibits that would occupy parts of the Wisconsin Center for the fall of '23, which again would be just tremendous usage of our building and bring some terrific programming to the market. On the meetings and convention side, since our May board meeting, it's been very strong between Megan Setman and the Visit Milwaukee team. We've confirmed 29 meetings and conventions since May. 11 of those are in '22, 14 are in '23, and 4 are in 2024. We've also closed 10 special events, 5 of which are for the remainder of this year and 5 for 2023. Something that may come as a bit of a surprise to Peggy, because I don't think I've shared this with her yet, but at the September board meeting, I'm going to have Leslie Johnson and Megan Setman present to you an update on where we are in the meetings and convention business, and based upon their summer tour schedule of different industry functions, give an update on where the industry is in coming back with meetings and conventions. So we'll be able to share that update with you in September. Other highlights on the meetings and convention side is that last week, Visit Milwaukee and Megan were at an industry trade show called Connect, and that is the trade show for meeting and convention meeting planners. They officially announced at that convention that Connect will be coming to Milwaukee in August of '24. Not quite on, but shortly thereafter the RNC moves out. They'll be using the entire exhibition level, all 300,000 square feet, including the new additional 112,000 square feet, the entire north building. They would use part of the south building, but we have another event already booked in there, so we're going to be very busy during that time. But that's an event that will be here in Milwaukee for 4 days, bringing 3,500 people in for that period of time. So it's a great booking, and it's a great convention group of attendees who will come here after the RNC and be able to experience Milwaukee hospitality firsthand, and will deliver business, I know, for years to come. Closer at hand, this coming weekend, starting next week it starts, we're welcoming the 103rd Annual American Legion Convention that's bringing over 9,000 attendees. So we've got a lot of people coming through our building and through downtown in the next week or two. Discussions are continuing with our sales force and Legends as it relates to selling naming rights for the expansion. More to come on that. Now, a topic that I've spoken about before, and the timing is such that I just need to readdress it. In January, I shared with the board my concern that about Live Nation's proposed 2 venues that were going to be built on the Summerfest grounds and how the addition of those facilities could really impact the Miller High Life Theater. In May, at our meeting, I brought to the board's attention that those discussions had shifted from talking about being in Summerfest to possibly in an association with the Bucks on the Bradley Center, the former Bradley Center lot. Since the May board meeting, Live Nation and the Bucks have announced that they are building a venue with a capacity of 4,000 people and a venue with a capacity of 800 people. The Bucks are using property they now own. They now own it only because of a deal financed by the city and county of Milwaukee, the state of Wisconsin, and the Wisconsin Center District. They are partnering with Live Nation to build and operate 2 venues that will directly compete not only with the Miller High Life Theater, but the rooftop ballroom on the expansion and the grand ballroom in our existing center. While we have an exceptional relationship with the Bucks, I believe the partnership between the Bucks and Live Nation is a show of bad faith to our organization, the city, county, and state. The Live Nation venues will be in direct competition with the Miller High Life Theater and will likely destroy the concert opportunities that I've already addressed that PTG has in running the Miller High Life Theater, in that any Live Nation tour will only play in the Live Nation-owned venues, which is not the case currently. These venues will not bring new business for a positive economic business. It will simply be redirecting shows from the Miller High Life Theater and other venues for a zero net economic impact for the city. There is no call to action here. As the CEO, I have a responsibility of keeping the board apprised of both business opportunities as well as business challenges. I am compelled to let you know that the Live Nation venues has the potential to adversely affect our existing and future businesses. You may recall that last month I sent out made you aware and sent out a notice that we were bringing on board a new Vice President of Human Resources. That individual has started, and I would like her just to stand up and be acknowledged. Nyla Tuckson. Nyla is our new VP of HR. She comes to us with over 20 years of HR experience and frontline guest services experience working in St. Louis at the America Center, which some of you may know is where I was before I came here. So I had the good fortune of doing a 5-year interview of her while working with her in St. Louis and was able to recruit her and entice her to move up to Milwaukee. And in her short time here, I believe this, and hopefully the rest of the staff does too, that she has given our organization a real-life exposure to what a real HR professional is supposed to be. And you've already made significant impact to our organization, and I am so glad you're here. Thank you. Thank you, Nyla. Many years of good luck with you here, please. Next thing is I'd like Mike Abrams to give you an update on where we are with the expansion project. Just as a note, and I think it was shared with you in your packets, after the board meeting concludes, we're going to be taking people up to the observation deck, if you will, of Hall D, which is our exhibition surface level, so that you can do a lookout over the expansion site. If you're able to do it, no PPE gear is required. If you can make it, we'd love to have you join us so we can show off to you what we're all working on. So without further ado, go ahead, Mike.
Thanks, Marty. Good morning.
A question on your report before you...
Sure.
Are we going to issue any kind of statement summarizing this financing package? Because I have a sneaking suspicion there's considerable confusion on the part of the public as to what we actually did.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. We didn't want to get ahead of this and announce anything because a vote doesn't happen until it's happened. So we will be getting word out and disclosing everything we've talked about in closed session.
Okay. I would think that would be very useful because They're already asking me in the form of the media, but so, okay.
Marty, could you just go back to the Live Nation thing? What I want to know is, the acts come to through Live Nation. They can't, is it almost like an exclusive that they can't play in our venue?
It would be unfair of me to speak for them, but there are a number, however, I can respond to your question from my
Your
experiences.
history, yeah.
Live Nation has an entity which is Live Nation Touring. They are the largest concert promoting touring organization in the world. They also own, the organization, the company, owns and operates concert venues throughout the world. Some markets, many markets, they don't have venues in. In those cases, a Live Nation tour deals with either the building or a local promoter, or even directly with that building to bring a show there. In most markets where they own and operate a venue, they will take their tours into their venue if that's the appropriate venue of size. If there is a tour of a major artist that needs, that their criteria is they're looking to sell 16,000+ tickets, and the only venues of that size are not Live Nation-owned venues, they play venues, they want to sell tickets. In markets where there are multiple choices of where to play, they're going to put the act in their building because they retain all revenue streams. Right now, Live Nation puts shows at Summerfest, at the Pabst Theater, at Riverside, in our building, and at the Fiserv Forum. Our buildings, meaning the theater and arena, the Jack White show that was Tuesday, that was terrific, was 4,000 people. That show would fit in the 4,000-person venue that they're building. There are if they want to sell Rolling Stones and need 18,000, that would certainly have to play the Fiserv Forum. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, has anyone brought up with the Bucks or the city about, what the land was given to build hospitality, wasn't it?
Well, I don't remember what the intent was. The intent is certainly not in writing to that effect. The Bradley Center site was conveyed to the Bucks via the state legislation. The city was not a party to that transaction, number one. Number two, that project will come before the Common Council because they need to have a detailed plan development approved. What we've approved so far for the Bradley Center site is a general plan development, which is sort of a broad outline of possible land uses and design considerations. So they still will require a detailed plan development to do the exact project that they're proposing, which will take up about a quarter of the site. So there is, in theory, plenty of space available for plenty of other things, including hotels, although that has not been part of the discussion, at least not a convention hotel.
I'm on Greg's side, no more hotels now.
No more hotel. There you go. There's been discussion of other possible uses, but I have not, I specifically raised the issue of a convention hotel, meaning a large facility with meeting rooms and major catering and event space of the sort. That has not been part of the discussion so far. Office, residential apartments, and then this music venue have been part of the discussion. So that will go before the Plan Commission in the fall, the Zoning Committee sometime in the fall, and then ultimately a council vote on the detailed plan development. I think it should be made clear that there will be no direct subsidy going to this development from the city in the form of tax incremental financing or anything else. So this is a straight zoning action, land use action, and of course people are free to object for any reason or no reason, but there is not a public subsidy involved here. So people are free to object. There's no question about that. But in my mind, we get into dangerous water. Wisconsin Center District is a taxpayer-funded entity, which in my mind puts it in a little bit of an odd position to object to a private enterprise, non-taxpayer-funded entity wanting to set up shop across the street and engage in competitive activity. I mean, I just throw that out for the free market folks out here. I mean, there might be some concern along those lines that a entity with significant tax revenues, we've heard today, tax revenue that puts this operation in very, very favorable circumstances. It sounds to me you could run just fine without the Miller Theater and not miss a beat. So I'm just throwing that out from these financial numbers that I see. So I think the district is in somewhat of an odd position to object to a non-taxpayer funded, free enterprise, no subsidy venture when it itself is a substantially tax-funded entity. I just want to make that modest point, taking no position on the merits, but it's one thing for the Eagles to complain or Turner Hall, but this group should maybe hold its fire a little bit.
Well, and Bob, I was very deliberate, and I hope, if I wasn't, then I need to be. I was expressing my concern to the board of the impact those venues could have on our business. I also raised the point that, as it relates to the usage of that property, for it to be used for residential, retail, there's no objection. It just is, I feel, the fact that we weren't involved in the discussions at all, and we learned about it in the press, that the property that they were using in a competitive nature to us was only made available to them because of the financing plan that got their arena built. So it's, they're kind of putting it in our face. Competition is healthy. I'm not afraid of competition. It's how they've accessed the property, and it's a responsibility of letting the board know this could affect the event activity at Miller Highlight Theater.
That's certainly fair.
Are you able to just give us background? I was on the board at the time. Background on how the land was signed over, if there were any good faith agreements or actually written agreements. What was that looking like? So background on this site.
The only thing I can share with you, Kalen, and it's not because I'm being evasive, I wasn't here. The only thing I can share with you and the board is that when I learned of this, the possibility of this transaction, I did go through the documentation, and I am not an attorney, so it was very difficult. It's many books of contracts. There isn't anything in the agreement that, from a contractual standpoint, gives me the ability to represent on the district's behalf. They can't use the property this way. So, yeah, I checked, can we do it? I wasn't here for the history. I don't know if Michael Best or if there's anyone else at the table. If not, we can certainly get you a timeline of what was done and how it was done, but I just am not familiar with it firsthand.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I asked that because I've gotten numerous phone calls and meeting requests about this. So I just would like the background on how it came about, how it affects the district, how it affects businesses in near the district, et cetera. So, yeah.
If there are no other questions, Mr. Abrams, you were standing there to give an update on the expansion.
Yeah, already up here longer than I anticipated, so I'll make this real fast. Okay. Good morning, Mike Abrams with CA Icon. For those that are new to the board, I'm going to run through a real quick update because I know we want to get out and walk up to the exhibit hall. I'm going to show a few more pictures this time to give you kind of a representation of where the project's at currently, in case you are not on the tour here in a few minutes. Design meetings, we're pretty much through the bulk of design meetings. We're well into construction. Our last CD package went out to bid earlier this summer. We received those bids on the finishes of the project, the interior finishes, a few weeks ago. So we've got all the final bids in, costs on the project. Now we're being committed. We are also, the Icon team is self-managing other certain aspects of the project, including some FF&E type products. So recently we received 5 furniture bids that came in a few weeks ago. We're finalizing those. Those are all from local furniture vendors. And also we are under contract now with a firm called Daktronics. They are the LED display board vendor. And the great thing about them, not only are they the Wisconsin Center District in-house LED provider now, but they were the only domestic manufactured product out of the group. More to come on future sort of FF&E details. Construction picture here. This is of a drone flight a couple of weeks ago. So you'll actually see when you're upstairs, actually more progress, a lot more progress than you see here. But this is a view to the south. You can see kind of on the right side some of the steel framing in. That is the new loading dock area. And the bulk of the elevated concrete decks are on the right side of the picture, which is the west side. That is the, you can see sort of the form of the parking garage ramp concrete going in. Quick construction update. We Energy steam line is complete and into the central utility plant building. We have our stair core towers placed as well as the elevated decks. As you can see here in some of the pictures around the parking. The balance of the foundation work is completing in the next couple of weeks on the east side of the projects. We have 7 elevated concrete pours to date, totaling about 9,300 cubic yards. We're about 20% complete with concrete. And just yesterday, the loading dock where that silver steel is, that was all formed and poured yesterday. The exhibit hall floor, which will, when we go out and walk, will be on that level. The first pour, concrete pour on that slab is due to occur in a couple of weeks. Wells Street, which is the street just north of the existing building here, which has been taken out of service for the past few months due to the steel connector, which is a back-of-house service bridge, which is being erected right now on the ground, and it'll be lifted into place starting on Monday. So that'll be elevated and into place here in the next few weeks and complete. We still have a lot of facade to put around it, but the base structure will be up and erected. In last meeting, we informed the board of a pile survey scheduling issue. Everything to date has gone very well. We are back on track, and the construction team is and has been for several months working within the scheduled recovery plan within the concrete deck placement activities, which will make up most of this time. And as a reminder, any costs associated within this plan currently is being tracked and paid for outside the scope of this project. Quick safety update. We have about 185 workers on average on site now between about 5 trades, excavation, plumbing, electrical, concrete, and steel erection. We have over 150,000 labor hours into the project, and we have no lost time currently. Contracting status, we have obviously one main construction manager contract. We have about 45 main subcontractors with all committed costs, and we have 18 professional service contracts, and we're about 18% billed out on the project. Some upcoming milestones. Our steel, structural steel for the project starts around the end of September, and that will start on the west side above the exhibit hall level. That's all steel where the ballroom structure is. And then Wells Street is planned to open up late December, early January. And about that same time we open up Wells, we're going to need to take, our hope is to take 2 lanes further down on Kilbourne Avenue, and that is due to the steel erection. This is a picture of the connector bridge, which is being assembled on the ground. It's a picture of Wells Avenue looking to the east. So that whole steel frame structure will be lifted into place, like I said, early next week. One of our main goals and one of our focuses on the project has been to include at least 31% of our hiring contracting firms on the project to fall within the MBE and the WBE and the DVBE categories. We're currently trending above that percentage, which is great. A few firms I just wanted to kind of showcase. We've been showcasing these particular firms in the last couple of inclusion reports. The first being Rams Contracting, which is a woman-owned construction business. They've been on the site from really day one, doing soil excavation and backfill activities. Norman Barrientos, who's a local designer and architect, has been part of the overall design team contract under TVS and EUA. True Vision Design she is a graphic designer. She's part of the reporting and contracting underneath Carla Cross, who does our inclusion monitoring services. And John Williams, who he owns American Design, another local design firm, is also working underneath the TVS and EUA design. And then just wanted to kind of showcase some of the community outreach and events, which is another thing that's been very important to not only the Gilbane and C.D. Smith joint venture team. The WCD has put a really high focus on community outreach and events, and just wanted to showcase some of the events that have occurred already to date. Earlier this year, some of the past events have included so we've sort of these ongoing matchmaking sessions for the subcontractor community. We entered into a OSHA safety partnership in May of this year. There's some pictures in the center of that event. The Carmen High School, so the science and tech high school focus. We did kind of a career day with that group earlier this summer. And in July, we had the construction team had 5 interns, and they highlighted them on an official internship day that occurred during the middle of the summer. And then lastly, a couple of upcoming community events. We have a targeted artwork public event that's being led by our art consultant at Marne, which is in the 3rd Ward, here in a couple of weeks, so the 31st of August. And that is more of sort of an educational workshop for any potential artists that are interested in bidding on the project on how to respond to the RFP or RFQ documents that'll be sent out later this year. So that's coming up in a few weeks. And then there's a ACE Mentor Day, which will be in the middle of October. I believe it's on October 18th. And that is to focus on students that are sort of interested in architecture, construction, or engineering. It's called the ACE program. So there will be an on-site sort of hands-on workshop. Several trades are coming in, and they can go to each station, learn more about what they do and what they focus on. I think that's going to be a great event. So that's it. Quick update this month. And if there's any questions, I can field those first. If not, I think there's a few announcements about the tour that we are about to partake in.
Any questions for Mike?
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
When the meeting adjourns, we will collect back here, and anyone, including those in the gallery who would like to go on the tour, just come back here, and we'll resume shortly after the meeting has concluded. Mr. Chairman, that with the conclusion of Mike's events, comments, that concludes the CEO report.
Great. Thank you, Marty. Just a few quick other things. Future meeting dates are in the last page of your packet. The next meeting will be Friday, September 16th for the full board. Then we have 2 more left after that, October 21st and November 18th. Any other discussion items, please let us know now, or you can email or always call us to add to the agendas. Thanks, everybody, for your time, attention, and continued commitment to the project, to building a better future here in Milwaukee and for the Wisconsin Center District. And like I said earlier, it's not been a 2 or 3 year run. It's been a 20-year run to get this done, and I think we're going to hopefully see some great progress on the tour for those of you who are staying over the next half hour or so. So thank you so much. With that, I would entertain them.
Can I just
Oh,
make
go
one
ahead.
quick comment? I've been one of those guys that doesn't say anything if I don't have anything good to say, but I will say that Mike and his team over at CAA Icon has been phenomenal. I think that they have really, really kept this project in line and together. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, thank you, Omar. I would agree with that. Are any other comments or questions? With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Have a fantastic weekend.